had that one. The Fever had that game, man. They had it in the bag. They were in control. They had it. They had it. They had it. They just forgot how to play basketball.
Another video, and I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people to blame for
this. One's insane. Fever fans are absolutely losing their minds after that meltdown. This wasn't some impossible matchup. The game was right there for the taking. The Aces looked off balance, shaky at best, but instead of capitalizing, Indiana looked like they were tripping over themselves the entire night. And the outrage? It's all landing squarely on Stephanie White. Fans are calling out everything. Questionable rotations, way too many missed free throws, and the glaring absence of any true floor general. It was a recipe for disaster, and it blew up right in their faces. So here's the real question. Is this just sloppy coaching, or could there be something deeper at play? Could Stephanie White actually be holding this team back? I want to hear your take. Drop it in the comments, because this collapse has Fever Nation on edge. Let's break down exactly how it all unraveled, because that's the moment every fan's blood pressure shot through the ceiling.
They had the game won. They made 2 field goals in the fourth quarter, and they were both in garbage time. They went 9 minutes without a field goal. 9 minutes without a field goal, and shout out Lexi Hull for finally scoring one. Kelsey Mitchell took 26 shots for 0 assists.
Let's be real, this game was never out of Indiana's reach. For most of the night, they were right there with a chance to snatch the win. The Fever were battling on the boards, showing bursts of energy that actually outworked Vegas at times. And here's the wild part, Aja Wilson wasn't even at her best. We're talking 13 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. That's not MVP level production, not by her standards. When a superstar like Aja is having an off night, that's the moment you've got to attack, dominate the paint, and close the deal. But instead of capitalizing, the Fever completely dropped the ball. They had the window wide open and still managed to slam it shut on themselves. Honestly, the collapse was tougher to watch than one of Aja's flop attempts on defense.
Your first team hasn't been exceptional in the playoffs. She was bad today. She was real bad today. Aerial Powers, look, I love her effort. Aerial Powers lost us that game. That is when the game ended. Like, there is 10 seconds to go in the third quarter, and Aaliyah Boston is standing wide open under the basket. Aerial Powers did not pass her the ball, and then Powers takes like 3-4 dribbles. Aaliyah's still wide open, and then eventually when she gets the ball to Aaliyah, it's a 3-second call. And then for some reason, Aerial Powers decides to front Jackie Young with 3 seconds to go, full court, and let Jackie Young run in a wide open layup. Suddenly, it goes from us being up 1 going into the fourth to down 3.
Check this out. Here's the number that should make every Fever fan sick to their stomach. Indiana pulled down 39 rebounds, and an insane 16 of those were offensive boards. That's the kind of effort that usually seals a win. That's hustle, that's grit, that's doing the dirty work. But what did they do with it? Absolutely nothing, because the shooting was flat out atrocious. The Fever went 25 for 72 from the floor. That's just 34%. And from 3, even worse, 7 for 23, a miserable 30%. That's not just cold shooting, that's handing the other team the game, brick by brick. And somehow, it gets uglier. At the free throw line, where pros are supposed to cash in without hesitation, they completely fell apart. 13 for 21, just 62%. In the WNBA, that's unacceptable. Free throws are supposed to be automatic, the easiest points you'll ever get. Even Kelsey Mitchell, usually one of the most reliable scorers on the floor, looked rattled. Shot after shot clanked off the rim, and every miss just sucked the life out of the building.
Close game late in the third, and then you guys really stalled on the offensive end. What did you see that they were doing, or that you guys were not doing well enough to keep up and score in that stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I thought we got a lot of good shots. Didn't make a lot of them. You know, we missed some opportunities at the free throw line, and then we got a little stagnant. You know, we were still in a good spot because we were getting stops until about middle of the fourth, and they went on that run. But look, I thought our energy was good. I thought our competitive spirit was good. At the end of the day, you know, you just look at the field goal mix and the free throw mix, and you know, it's a different ball game. And Vegas.
Now let's get into coaching, because Fever fans are tearing Stephanie White apart for this collapse. And honestly, after watching that mess, it's hard to argue. Her rotations were all over the place. Take Natasha Howard. She finished with just 5 points and 5 rebounds, bringing almost no spark on either end. Yet somehow White kept her on the floor for long stretches like she was vintage Candace Parker in MVP form. Then you look at Odyssey Sims. She was out of rhythm the entire game, coughing up turnovers, hesitant with the ball, and refusing to push the pace. Did White bench her and make an adjustment? Nope. She left her out there while Vegas found their groove and flipped the game. And here's the part that really has fans furious: Lexi Hull. She was out there playing through pain, throwing her body around, grabbing a double-double, diving on the floor like nothing else mattered. The kind of warrior effort you build a team around. But instead of feeding her opportunities or riding her hot hand, White practically acted like she didn't exist. And that's when fans started yelling the word nobody wants to hear: sabotage. Because when the players giving you everything are sidelined in favor of ones mailing it in, it doesn't look like strategy. It looks like you're actively tanking the team's chemistry. And here's the truth: Vegas didn't even crush Indiana with overwhelming dominance. Jackie Young had 25, Chelsea Gray chipped in, sure, but this wasn't a showcase of superiority. It was Indiana tripping over itself again and again. Both teams had 15 turnovers, but the Fevers came at the absolute worst moments. Every mistake killed momentum and drained the crowd's energy. That's not just sloppy basketball, that's a team without a compass. And where does that compass come from? Coaching. And that's exactly why the conspiracy theories are spreading like wildfire. Fans are pointing at Stephanie White and saying it out loud. She doesn't want Caitlin Clark back on the floor. Why? Because Clark flips the script completely. She forces the entire offense to run differently. She demands the ball move faster, smarter, through her hands. She forces the system to adjust to her playmaking and shot creation. And it looks like White wants no part of that. Think about it. Clark's injury timeline suggested she could have been back by now. We've seen players return from groin injuries in equal or even shorter stretches. Yet every update from the Fever is the same. Not ready, still recovering, week after week. And fans aren't buying it anymore. Fans are starting to piece it together. The theory? Stephanie White has sold the front office on the idea that Indiana is actually better off without Caitlin Clark. That the offense flows cleaner, more team-oriented when it isn't running through one superstar. But here's the harsh truth: it's not working at all. They're not better. They're not winning. They're getting embarrassed while Clark sits on the bench watching. That whole "we play better without her" argument collapsed the moment Vegas, even with Aja Wilson having an off night, still cruised to a double-digit win. Now, step back and compare coaching styles, because this is the key difference. Look at Becky Hammon in Las Vegas. She doesn't hide her stars. She doesn't try to shrink their game. She lets Aja Wilson work through mistakes, but still holds the team accountable. That balance, that trust in her centerpiece, is exactly why the Aces keep stacking championships. Meanwhile, Stephanie White looks terrified of turning the keys over to Clark. Instead of unleashing her, she clings to her rigid system, relying on role players. It's safe, predictable, and flat out losing. This isn't just about play calls or substitutions, it's about identity. Caitlin Clark isn't some wide-eyed rookie anymore. She's in year 2. She's the face of the league, whether the veterans like it or not. She's the reason arenas sell out, why ratings explode, why casual fans suddenly care. And somehow, her own coach is acting like the Fever are stronger without her. That's not just bad coaching, that's organizational suicide. And the player usage, it's baffling. Lexi Hull has proven again and again she's the ultimate competitor. Tough, relentless, unselfish, but White keeps underutilizing her. Natasha Howard, invisible. Odyssey Sims, completely lost. Aerial Powers showed flashes in just 11 minutes, but was never trusted with more. Even Kelsey Mitchell, she scored 21, but then disappeared in crunch time. That's not just on the players, that's a coach who has no idea how to press the right buttons or get her roster to execute when it matters. And here's the kicker, the rumor that has Fever Nation boiling. Some believe Stephanie White has flat out told management, if Caitlin comes back now, everything has to change. The offense will fall apart, the flow will die. And unbelievably, the front office seems to have bought it, keeping Clark sidelined while the team visibly crumbles without her. That's not cautious coaching, that's not strategy, that's sabotage, plain and simple.
In a row. I feel like the Aces didn't even really play well tonight. They kind of handed the Fever that game, and the Fever kind of blew it, which makes me so sad. Obviously, you can never count out this Fever team because of what they accomplished, but now they have a very tough task if they want to make it to the finals. They have to win one game at home, and then they have to go back to Vegas and try to win a game 5 where it's both teams win or go home. And honestly, that's a super tough task going up a team like the Aces with a coach like Becky Hammon, a 2-time WNBA champion, who also coached in the NBA before coming to the WNBA. Like, it feels like she's already changed up the defense quite a bit, and it's really disrupted the Fever offense. It's just not looking good, and I feel like this was the game. This was the Fever's game. Asia had 3 points until the end of the third quarter. She's not gonna do that again. Nalissa Smith and Jackie Young cooked them. A lot of missed free throws and a lot of missed layups.
Let's zoom in even closer on the elephant that's been in the room this entire time. Let's address the giant elephant in the room. Caitlin Clark's absence has blown the lid off Stephanie White's so-called system. Without Clark stretching defenses and controlling the tempo, the Fever look like a team just running in circles, hoping Kelsey Mitchell pulls off some miracle jumper to save them. And sure, Mitchell has delivered at times, but when Las Vegas knows she's the lone engine, the game plan is simple: shut her down and dare the rest of Indiana to step up. The result? The Fever suddenly look more like a G League roster pretending to be contenders. Clark's presence, though, changes everything. Her range forces defenders to pick her up at the logo. Her passing vision demands double teams on screens, and that constant gravity opens up driving lanes and high percentage shots for everyone else. When she's on the floor, the whole offense breathes. Without her, we saw exactly what happens. Natasha Howard standing stagnant, Odyssey Sims tossing the ball into the stands, Aaliyah Boston stuck in awkward low percentage spots, and Lexi Hull busting her tail for rebounds that never translate into points. This is where coaching comes in. Any smart coach understands this truth. Clark isn't just part of the system, she is the system. She bends defenses, she dictates pace, she forces the entire league to adjust to her presence. That's what you build around. That's what you embrace. But instead, Stephanie White looks obsessed with proving she can win her way, with her rigid structure, her system, her rules. And that obsession has turned the Fever into their own worst enemy. Look at other elite coaches. Becky Hammon lets Aja Wilson play through mistakes while still trusting her to carry the team. Gino Auriemma handed Paige Buckers the keys to UConn on day 1. Even Kim Mulkey, love her or hate her, understood Angel Reese had to be the focal point at LSU. Great coaches don't minimize their stars, they maximize them. White, on the other hand, is treating Caitlin Clark like some luxury option, a 6th woman you bring off the bench only when desperate. It's laughable, and fans see right through it. Social media erupted after this game. Fire Stephanie White trended across Fever circles, and the lowlight reels, a mashup of missed free throws with White looking completely lost on the sidelines. Social media wasted no time clowning the situation. Memes popped up showing Stephanie White holding Caitlin Clark back, plastered with captions like "System first, win second." And honestly, fans aren't buying the excuses anymore. What makes this mess sting even worse is the timing. Clark is in her 2nd year. The exact moment she's supposed to take that leap, erase the rookie label, and cement herself as the most dangerous guard in the league. Instead, the headlines aren't about her dominance. They're about whether her own coach is sabotaging her return. That's insane. The WNBA has been begging for a face of the league, someone who can capture national attention, drive ticket sales, and boost ratings. They finally have her, and yet her own franchise can't figure out how to manage the situation. It's mind-blowing. Here's where the so-called sabotage theory takes root. The argument is simple. Stephanie White knows that the second Clark comes back and runs the show, her rigid system gets exposed. Her coaching style becomes irrelevant. She looks like someone who can't manage stars, can't adapt, can't design a modern offense around a generational player. So instead of embracing the inevitable, she allegedly convinced management that Clark isn't ready, keep her shelved, push the team game narrative, protect her own job at all costs. Sounds like a Hollywood script, right? Except the circumstantial evidence keeps piling up. Clark's recovery lined up perfectly with the playoffs. Fans saw her at shoot-arounds, moving smoothly, shooting with ease, showing zero signs of being physically held back. No limp, no boot, no visible struggle. She looked close to game ready, yet every update from the team was identical. She's progressing, but not ready. Convenient, almost too convenient. Meanwhile, Indiana kept crumbling in the most predictable way possible. The offense stagnant, role players looking completely lost. And Las Vegas, they didn't even need peak Wnba Wilson to cruise past them. If you're ownership, how do you watch that and say, yes, this is working as planned? You don't. The only logical question becomes, where is Caitlin Clark? And when that question keeps circling back to the coach, fans connect the dots. Now sure, some defenders of White argue she's just being cautious, that she's protecting Clark's long-term health. Fair enough. Until you remember what's at stake. This is the playoffs, the moment every competitor dreams of, the reason you grind through the pain and put in endless hours. If your franchise cornerstone is cleared by doctors and begging to play, you let her play. No debate. That's what championship organizations do. That's the mindset of winners. And Caitlin Clark, she's probably the fiercest competitor in the entire WNBA. Do you honestly believe she's sitting out by choice? Not a chance. If it were up to her, she'd wrap her groin in duct tape and hobble onto the court just to compete. That's who she is. The reality is, Stephanie White is a cautious, risk-averse coach. That mindset can work when you're leading a roster of grinders and role players. But when you've been gifted a once-in-a-generation scorer who thrives on risk, on speed, on taking the impossible shot and making it, that philosophy collapses. Clark's pull-up threes from the logo, her no-look passes, her relentless tempo, none of that is safe. But it's electrifying, it's disruptive, and it's exactly what breaks opposing defenses. By keeping her benched, White isn't just playing it safe, she's stripping Indiana of the very weapon that makes them dangerous. That's why fans are furious. They know Clark changes the math, missed free throws hurt, sloppy turnovers hurt, but they also know one thing with absolute certainty. With Clark on the court, the Las Vegas Aces don't skate by on an off night from Wnba Wilson, because with Clark out there, Indiana has a real chance to flip the series. Without her, they're done, and that's what makes the future so chilling. If the Fever crash out while Clark watches in street clothes, ownership faces a massive decision. Do they cling to White's rigid, uninspired system and risk alienating the league's most marketable star? Or do they move on, bring in a coach who can actually maximize Clark's unmatched talent before it's too late and she starts considering her options elsewhere? History is clear. You've sided with the star. Coaches are disposable. Generational players are not. White might think she's protecting her philosophy, but what she's really doing is accelerating her own firing. Because when Clark inevitably speaks out, and that day will come, the front office isn't siding with the coach. They'll side with the player who sells out arenas, breaks ratings records, and literally carries the league's financial future. And this isn't just about Indiana. The entire WNBA is paying attention. Other teams are already circling, quietly hoping the Fever implodes so they can pounce at the chance to lure Clark away someday. That's how valuable she is. You don't gamble with a generational asset like Caitlin Clark, yet Stephanie White seems to be doing exactly that. Whether it's stubbornness or an outdated mindset, the irony, it's brutal. Not long ago, Stephanie White was being praised as a potential coach of the year. The narrative was that she'd revitalized the Fever, brought discipline, given them structure, and made them competitive again. And to be fair, there's truth in that. But structure alone only takes you so far, especially in the playoffs. At some point, you have to take the leash off. You have to let chaos work for you. You have to embrace the unpredictable. And if White isn't capable of doing that, or flat out refuses, then she's not the coach who will ever deliver a championship to Indiana. She'll just be the placeholder before the one who finally does. That's why so many fans are now calling this sabotage. Maybe it's not some sinister plan. Maybe it's just pride, fear, or a coaching philosophy stuck in the past. But the result is the same. Clark's sitting in street clothes, the Fever are getting embarrassed, and the fan base is ready to explode. So where does this go from here? If Indiana flames out of the playoffs with Clark on the sidelines watching her teammates fall apart, the backlash will be deafening. National media will shred White, social media will demand accountability, and sooner or later, Clark herself will drop a perfectly timed comment that ignites a firestorm. Because competitors like her don't sit quietly forever, and Caitlin Clark is as competitive as they come. The Fever have one path forward if they want to secure their future. Put Clark at the absolute center of everything. Build around her, trust her, unleash her. And if Stephanie White can't or won't do that, then the front office has to find someone who will, and fast. Because wasting Clark's prime years on safe coaching isn't just bad strategy, it's unforgivable. So here we are. Stephanie White is officially on the hottest seat imaginable. Fever fans have stopped making excuses. The numbers don't lie, the eye test doesn't lie, and all those so-called conspiracy theories, they're starting to sound a lot less crazy, aren't they? Indiana has a generational superstar in Caitlin Clark, a walking gold mine, and if her own coach won't unleash her, rest assured someone else definitely will.